Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. You can find full episodes at Nick Belsky on YouTube as well, or you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast from. I'm your host, Nick Belsky. We'll be joined shortly by Nick Horwat to go over all of your mailbag questions from last week, as well as react to the Olympic rosters for Milano Cortina in the month of February. But before we get into that, is there a team hotter than the Pittsburgh Penguins right now? There's very few. Yes, the Buffalo Sabres, they were red hot, 10 straight victories, but you know what they weren't able to do? They weren't able to take down the Columbus Blue Jackets this weekend, but the Penguins were. A wild 5-4 overtime victory on the road against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And because of that, the Penguins reached the midpoint of the 2025-26 season with a 5-game winning streak. They have not lost since returning from the Christmas break. And you look at that stretch there, and I think this victory on Sunday was the most telling of all of them. Yes, was it great to come out of the break and win 7-2 on the road against Chicago? 100%. Yes, was it nice to win 5-1 against a Carolina Hurricanes team that has really given the Penguins struggles over the last couple of years? Yeah, that was great. Was it nice to win both parts of a home and home against the top team in the Atlantic, the Detroit Red Wings? 1,000%. But the thing is, in those 4 games, it was the same script. The Penguins, dominant in the first period, got out to a big lead and protected the big lead. And for what it's worth, that's a very important thing for us to see, considering what we saw happen throughout most of the month of December. But the fact that they were able to change the script up and still come away with the 2 points, that's what you want to see. You want to see your team winning in different ways. So the first 4 games out of break, it was take the lead early, multi-goal lead early, and protect it the rest of the game. In this one, the Pens played really well in the first 9 minutes of this game. Similar to what you saw against the Detroit Red Wings on Saturday is what you saw early on against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Sunday. But then, as they've been doing, because the Blue Jackets had won 4 of 5, including taking down the red-hot Buffalo Sabres, they punched back. And they punched back in a big way, scoring 4 unanswered goals to put the Penguins on their heels just after the beginning of the second period. And what were they able to do? Claw their way back, score with the empty net to tie it up with 13 seconds to go, and then win the game in overtime. Just the 3rd overtime victory for the Penguins this season. The second just so happens to be the second one that they won in Columbus. So you look at this 5-game win streak. 2 victories against Metropolitan Division teams. That's something else we can get into a little bit down the road, is how good the Pens have been against their own division this year. 3 of those victories on the road, where the Penguins are playing really good hockey this year, and 3 against teams that when they played them were in first place in their respective divisions. Both matchups against Detroit, as well as the game they won against the Carolina Hurricanes. And I already mentioned, Columbus had won 4 of 5. So the Penguins are playing extremely good hockey right now. We're seeing a whole bunch of different shades of this Penguins team over the past week. Their goal scoring is back at a high level. Their penalty killing is back at a high level and bounced back into the top 10 in the entire NHL as of right now. Their power play is clicking on all cylinders, and all of a sudden they're back up to 2nd in the National Hockey League. They're getting timely saves from both Stuart Skinner and Artur Shilovs. And in some of these games, they're playing some really good defense. I mean, Saturday afternoon was the best defensive performance they've had all season, and you could probably go back through last season, and it would rank up there as the top or the second best defensive performance if you include that full 82-game slate as well. So they're playing really good hockey, and it's nice whenever you reach the midpoint and you can look at the Penguins and say they're in a playoff spot. That's always what you want to see, especially for a team that had the expectations that this Penguins team had coming into this season. There weren't a lot of people, whether it be analysts or fans, that were giving the Penguins a shot to make the playoffs this year. Well, they sit at the midpoint, 41 games into this season, with a 20, 12, and 9 record, which is good for third place in the Metropolitan Division, tied with the Philadelphia Flyers. But the way they got there, I think it shows you that they are, I would say, a better team than their record currently shows. They go 8-2-2 in October. Extremely solid month. One of the best teams in hockey in the month of October. Then they go 6-5-3 in the month of November and then the first week of December. Not a great record. Come back down to earth a little bit. They had their struggles, but overall, they still played some pretty decent hockey. Then, of course, you have that 10-game stretch between the Sunday game against the Dallas Stars and the Christmas break, where Evgeny Malkin goes down with an injury going into that game against Dallas. He hasn't returned since, but that stretch between that game and Christmas, that's the reason that the Penguins are where they're at. If they would have been able to, and we talked a lot in the month of December about them not being able to hold on to multi-goal leads, if they would have been able to hold on to just 2 of them, they'd be neck and neck with Carolina for the top team in the Metro Division. But instead, they go 1-5-4. That's going to be potentially a defining stretch for this team, but they're hoping to make it just kind of a footnote in a much larger story in a positive direction, because since the holiday break, as I mentioned, 5-0-0, beating 3 teams that are currently sitting in a playoff spot, 1 team on the road, which I will give them credit. I understand. Connor Bedard was not playing. Frank Nazar was not playing, but that's a venue that they usually struggle in. So they're able to go, make sure that none of that was in their minds as they take care of the Blackhawks. And then, of course, they're able to come back from a 3-goal deficit against Columbus, including a game-tying goal with just seconds remaining on the clock. This team's clicking on all cylinders. And the thing is there's still more there, right? We're seeing this team kind of come together right now. You look at that game on Sunday, goals from all 4 forward lines. You had Ville Koivunen back in the lineup and onto the score sheet. Great. That's exactly what you want to see. You have Noel Acciari scoring a pivotal goal late in the second period. You have Tommy Novak continuing to just light things up. You have Ricard Raquel in the first line scoring with the empty net man advantage late in the game. And then, of course, it's capped off by Sidney Crosby, who has 47 points in 41 games, on pace once again to be in the mid-90s in the 2025-26 season. If you're a Penguins fan, you have to be happy with where this team is at as it currently stands. And now they get rewarded with a 3-day break and another matchup against a Metropolitan Division foe. Hopefully, they can continue their recent success. But the Pens at the midway point of the season, they're red hot. And right now, they're one of the more dangerous teams in the league without Evgeny Malkin. So hopefully he's able to get healthy and just join this team and take it to another level, because I think we all can agree that it feels like there might be another level here for the Pens whenever they can get to full health. But I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, joined by Nick Horwat to answer all of your mailbag questions and, of course, to break down the 2026 men's Olympic hockey rosters. We'll be right back on the Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. Now joined by Nick Horwat for what I believe, unless I'm missing something somewhere, your first edition of Ice-Burgh Mailbag.
Definitely first in this iteration. We may have done some in years past, but it's been a while since I've heard the questions from the fans, and I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to be back for this sort of shindig. It's been a minute.
Before we get into the questions, I have a question for you, and this is, I'm just throwing this out to you, and it's probably putting you on the spot a little bit, but This is the first episode of Tip of the Ice-Burgh in 2026. If you had to use one word to describe Penguins hockey in 2025, not just, the portion of this season leading up to where we're at now, but also the end portion of last season where the Penguins struggled and ended up with the 9th turned 11th overall draft selection in the June draft. What is that one word that you would use to describe Penguins hockey in 2025?
The first one that came to mind right away was chaos. I feel like I've used that before, though, mostly because we discussed how last season ended. We kind of knew it was going to be a bummer of a season, and then the offseason kicked in, and then, hey, sale rumors. Hey, Mario Lemieux rebuying the team rumors. Hey, all of that's off the table. I don't think Fenway is selling anymore. To draft night, to, hey, this out of nowhere pick that no one had on their draft boards for the Penguins is being taken in the first round. Oh, he's making the NHL lineup now. It's been a bit of a string of, and then the actual sale happened to a new name completely that might try and put a winner on the ice. To the Penguins, the way I said last week, need to pick a direction. They still haven't really picked a direction. They've won every game since. So I would say chaos comes to mind first, or confusion, just because truly, what is this team? Where are they going? What's next? And boy, I'm buckled in and enjoying the ride, at least.
Yeah, there's always the saying that goes around Pittsburgh sports when it comes to the Penguins. It's they could be good, they could be bad. No matter what, they're always entertaining.
They're always entertaining. Entertainment value at all times with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It'll be one heck of a ride in 2026, probably full of ups and downs, but we'll see where the road takes them. And I'm curious to see. Like I said, I'm buckled in and ready for the ride.
Yeah, the word that I would choose is progress. I think 2 years ago, you look at the year they had in 2024, and that's when they started the rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, when I traded away Jake Gensel. Last year was progress. You see some of these draft picks be made. You see some of these young players start to make an impact, like Rutger McGroarty making his first real stint at the tail end of last season. Now you're starting to see that translate this year. Ben Kindle, you mentioned perfectly, came out of nowhere to become not just somebody who has a roster spot, not just somebody who's in the lineup every day, but somebody who's making an impact in every single game that he plays. I mean, his line typically is just dominant at 5-on-5. And as we've talked about, he's really good on the power play as well. But then you just look at what they've done this season. It's a much better product than it's been in a couple years. So I would say that progress is my word for 2025, but I like chaos as well. I think it perfectly illustrates what it's been for the Penguins. I mean, you look at 2025 alone, just this season portion of 2025, 8-2-2 in October, horrible in November, good at points in December, but then blowing crazy leads throughout the entire month to wind up with 9 losses in 10 games. And then they win the tail end, the final 2 games coming off the break, and they haven't lost in 2026 as we speak. Of course, they do have a game this afternoon that I would have talked about earlier in the show, but as we record this, they haven't lost yet in 2026. Knock on wood. Hopefully we're not giving them bad omens for their matchup against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But let's get into a lot of these questions because we got some really great questions this week. We usually answer them on Thursday, but Thursday of this past week was New Year's Day and neither of us could get to our computer. I mean, busy times. Hopefully it settles down. We get some more consistent content out to you as 2026 rolls on. But let's kick things off with J Thomas 83 on YouTube, who says, happiest of New Year's to you. A rule related question to kick off 2026. What is the reasoning for restricting goalies to handling the puck below the scoring line only in the trapezoid area? Why not allow them to play the puck in the pie slice areas? Thanks, and go Pens. I had an idea. I figured what the answer was. I looked it up just to make sure. So I know the answer. What's just off the top of your head? Do you know why they instituted the trapezoid rule? I'll tell you the year, which might be a dead giveaway, right coming out of the lockout in 2005, 2006, when this began.
Yeah, right out of the lockout, they adjusted the rink size as well during that time, and they implemented the Martin Brodeur rule.
Yep.
It's the full description escapes me. I know that's what it's called. Basically, they just can't touch it there because goalies got too good at stick handling in that corner. I will say, though, the way the game has sort of progressed and now goalies have kind of taught themselves to not go in that area, to not touch the puck in that area. See what happens. Oh, if the Olympics do that, don't they? Don't they widen that up? Widen that up?
Well, I mean, the entire ice surface is wider, so I would imagine that the trapezoid itself is a little bit of a bigger area.
But it's still there in the Olympics. I thought they got rid of it in the Olympics.
I'm not sure. I haven't watched Olympic hockey since really 2014, to be
That's fair.
completely honest.
But
And if I
anyway.
have, I was not paying attention to the trapezoid.
Yeah. Anyway, I got off on a tangent. The answer is goalies got too good at it.
Yes. Yeah. And specifically Martin Brodeur. So short answer is Marty Brodeur was just too damn good at handling the puck. Longer answer is so was everybody else. I mean, Ron Hextall is a name that I am not quick to bring up on this show because it just triggers a lot of Penguins fans, but he was also one of those goaltenders that was just ridiculously good at playing the puck. I mean, essentially the dump and chase was impossible because the second you dumped it, these goaltenders had the puck, and before you could even get to the face-off dots, the puck was out of the zone already because Dominic Hasek was pretty good at playing the puck. John Van Beesbrook was really good from the Rangers at playing the puck. So all goaltenders were really good at that. But you know what? It is interesting. Now that we are 2 decades removed from the implementation of that rule, I feel like there's a lot less goaltenders that are that adept at handling the puck behind their net. I feel like you see more either miscommunications or misplays of the puck now than you ever have before. And it might be because, I mean, a lot of this generation of goaltenders played up with that trapezoid rule where you don't really have to play the puck all that much because you have it in just that small area. So maybe it's time to kind of go the other direction. Everything's cyclical in professional sports anyway.
Time to eliminate them and just say, let's see what you guys can do in the corners again. Or if they keep the same game plan and stay to the back. Because in reality, outside of stick handling in that corner and being good at playing the puck, there wasn't that much benefit to it. You're further away from your own net in those corners. So it more or less it looked like a detriment to a goalie to be out in that corner anyway, but they always figured it out and the league decided that they were too good at it. So
yeah, give the attacking offense a place to put the puck so they don't have to carry it in every single time. And in turn, it was meant to just generate more offense. That's what the league was about in 2005, 2006. Coming out of the dead puck era, they just wanted by any means necessary to create more scoring because it was lacking excitement in those early 2000s seasons. So great question, and hopefully we gave a serviceable answer to that. Let's go to G-Tots, who also says, Happy New Year's, guys. Since we're about at the halfway point, what do you guys think of Dan Muse's system versus Mike Sullivan's?
I haven't seen enough of Dan Muse's system to really give a solid answer. Some things seem to be working, some things don't. I can leave it at that for the time being. I appreciate that. Oh, I mean, that was another part of the chaos to this year, by the way, the coaching search that again led to a name no one really expected.
Yeah.
Very fun. So I feel like I would still need a bit more of a learning curve to know what I do and don't like about his systems and how he is coaching this team. So far, so good, though, as they sit in a pretty good spot in these standings, despite the East still being a very tight race. I'd say I'm enjoying it so far, but I'm going to need a bit of a longer look. Come back to me in the summer with this one, I think.
You want a full season sample size before you make any hard and fast declarations about what you think of Dan Muse's system.
Yes, especially considering the expectations heading into the year were so low and they've already exceeded them. And now there's still time to lose those expectations. It's a whole confusing thing in my head. All I know is I would need the full year to kind of see where they are, see what happens, and see kind of what the game plan was from day 1 to day 82.
I think the main change that I've noticed personally, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, and there's kind of examples on both sides of it, is Dan Muse's system, when compared specifically to Mike Sullivan's, allows a little bit more freedom within structure. It's not just, Wild West out there, but it allows a little bit more freedom for some of your best players. Guys like Evgeny Malkin, I think you saw take advantage of that when he was healthy at the beginning of the season. A guy like Erik Karlsson is certainly taking advantage of that. But the downside is it can lead to some defensive breakdowns, and we've seen that throughout the season. And there's players that, whenever given that freedom, tend to struggle a little bit more. And I think we're seeing that with a player like Chris Letang. Now, he's coming around a little bit more. I think you're seeing, as time goes on with him and Brett Kulak, that it's starting to help Chris Letang a little bit. It's starting to help the team's defensive game. I mean, look no further than what they were able to do in Detroit on Saturday afternoon. I mean, I think they gave up 12 shots on goal on the road to a team that is really good on the rush in the Detroit Red Wings. So really solid performance there. But I think that's my biggest takeaway so far of the differences is there's a little bit more freedom within the structure of Dan Muse's system, which is perfect for a team that has a lot of young players because it allows you to make mistakes without feeling like, okay, because I made that mistake, I'm not going to see another shift for potentially months. I think that in Sullivan's system, this is what your job is. You need to do your job. And if you don't do your job, you're going to get taken out of the lineup. Whereas in Dan Muse's, there's a little bit more gray. And I think it's allowing a little bit more freedom for the Penguins.
I couldn't agree more with that answer. That actually makes a ton of sense because the way you're seeing a very late stage of Kenny Malkin succeed the way he has so far. You're seeing Erik Karlsson sort of bounce back after two self-proclaimed and public disappointing years statistically for Erik Karlsson. Sure, he's had spurts over his first couple seasons in Pittsburgh, but nothing really reached the level that anyone was expecting. He was coming off a 100-point season coming into Pittsburgh. No one was expecting him to go near that again, but they expected more than what they had gotten. And it seems finally in the 25-26 season, the Penguins are at least getting closer to what they expected. I don't know if it's still fully what they expected, but it is more along the proper lines of we took the reins off of him a bit. He's able to produce again. We tried touting his defensive abilities in the first two seasons, and it didn't go phenomenally well. Had some, again, bright spots, but at the end of the day, this is a better version of Erik Karlsson now than what they've had in the past few years.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things to go into that as well. I think part of it is the system, but I think part of it's also Parker Wotherspoon. Like I will continue to praise Parker Wotherspoon for what he's done in a year where he's played more hockey than he's ever played in his life, and he's playing alongside Erik Karlsson. So sometimes those can be pretty tough minutes when it comes to the defensive defenseman, the stabilizing force for a defense pairing. But they've went together like peanut butter and jelly this season, and it is one of the main reasons that the Penguins are in the position that they're in.
Yep.
Let's move over to Austin Fernsler on YouTube, who says the entire fourth line are free agents after this year. What will the Penguins do with that group at year's end? The Pens' fourth line has been very good for them, especially since all becoming healthy here in the last couple of weeks. They've been a huge boost to this Penguins team. Blake Lizotte, Connor Dewar, Noel Acciari has really become, I don't want to call it an identity line because I think that term is used way too much, but for lack of a better term, I'll call them the Pens identity line.
You're right. I definitely don't love that saying either for a line, especially whenever
that's not the identity of the team.
That's not the identity of the team. Yeah, not at all. But what do they do with them? I mean, I guess it depends what kind of style and system they want going forward. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Noel Acciari hit free agency. I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion. I feel like at least it was in the last couple seasons that he might not be on the team through a summer, and yet here he is. So wouldn't be shocking just to see that contract run out. Same with Connor Dewar to an extent. I know he's playing well. I know he's obviously fitting this role very well, but the fourth line can be, I don't want to say toyed with, but can be moved in and out pretty frequently and pretty often. And has short lifespans on hockey teams. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him go either. Leaving Blake Lizotte as, wouldn't be surprised to see him walk to free agency either, but also would expect him to stick around on a short-term deal just because he's played that well. He's been that important to the team. He's been that important to the line and the success of that line and the overall success of the team. If there's anyone you keep around, it's him out of those guys. And again, you can filter names in and out of here. I mean, Kevin Hayes has spent a little bit of time there, among other names. So it'll be interesting to see if anything, if anyone gets staple gunned to each other. That's one thing about Dan Muse is that there's not a lot of staple gunning here the way Mike Sullivan had. I'd be interested to see who glues together and who sticks and who doesn't through the end of the season. And all bets are off in the offseason, especially when it comes to fourth line depth guys. But if anyone, Blake Lizotte sticks.
If they're healthy, I'm not saying you write them in pen. I say you tattoo this line as your fourth line right now.
All right, yeah.
And not only that, if I'm Kyle Dubas, Blake Lizotte has an extension offer on his proverbial desk tomorrow morning, if not already this morning.
Yeah.
Like when the Penguins get back from Columbus, I'm looking at Blake Lizotte and I'm saying, so how long do you want to stick around here? Let's make something happen, because he is so important to them, not just on that fourth line, because that fourth line has done just brilliant work over the last couple of weeks. But the penalty kill, I mean, you look at what they did when he was not in the lineup through most of December. They went from being a top 10 unit to, in the month of December, being the 28th worst penalty kill in the NHL. And then since he's come back, the only goals they allowed were on Thursday against Detroit when they had 8 opportunities against. So I think that he is somebody that, if you're serious about contending and competing for anything, you extend him before the trade deadline. I don't even think you entertain offers for him to be traded away, because while, yes, he's a fourth liner, I think a fourth liner that makes the impact that Blake Lizotte makes is somebody that you need to, it's harder to find. So it's somebody that you need to lock up. As far as the other two, I think they're guys that, yes, you could probably replace them. I think Connor Dewar is a guy that I would look at and say, all right, maybe you try to trade him if you're still trying to toe that line. And if not, then you extend him. And Noel Acciari is a guy that, if you can find a replacement, find one, because I mean, the guy is a workhorse. The guy is seemingly made of steel, but at some point the wheels are going to fall off, right? At some point, a guy that plays the game the style that Noel Acciari plays is just going to run out of road. And I think that's what would worry me about giving him an extension, unless, of course, it's a similar deal. It's a 1-year deal, and it's whatever league minimum is going to be, maybe a little bit more, because he gets that veteran and that returning player boost. But I look at a guy like Boko Imama and I say, listen, he doesn't kill penalties, but I wouldn't mind seeing him on the fourth line next year. So maybe that's in favor of a Connor Dewar, and you keep a Noel Acciari. The way I see this is, you build it around Blake Lizotte and you try to fill in with either Dewar or Acciari, or maybe you try to bring in a Boko Imama and bump a Connor Dewar and try to get some value out of him at the trade deadline. Noel Acciari, it's just a matter of how much do the Penguins trust what he has left in the tank.
Yeah. He's made of steel, yes, but at the same time made of glass. He's been injured quite a bit over his few seasons in Pittsburgh. It hasn't been a perfect run. When he's on the ice, he's made of steel, no doubt. He is a workhorse, like you said, when he's in the lineup and when he's playing. But man, an injury sneaks up on him, and it's tough. It's been some unfortunate injuries. It's not like they've been non-contact either. They've all been basically fractures, concussions, like from his workhorse mentality. So it's a bit of a tougher sell to keep him around. That body's going to break down at some point. He is made of steel, yeah, but not for too much longer. And like I said, going into every offseason, it has seemed like he was on the chopping block, and yet he's still here.
Yeah.
The free agent board is just the easiest way to let someone roll.
Yeah, it's hard too. Like, again, I say I like Boko Imama. He doesn't kill penalties. Yeah, but here's the thing. When you have a third line that's, as of right now, Yegor Chinikov, who we'll talk about, Ben Kindle and Rutger McGroarty. Yes, Rutger can kill penalties. We've seen Ben Kindle at times kill penalties. You need guys that are going to take the bulk majority of those minutes.
Yeah.
And, Lizotte does. Lizotte Dewar is your top killing pairing. And then you have Noel Acciari. So when you have a lot of talent in that top 9, your fourth line needs to be a lot of penalty killers. And it's hard to sit here and say, yeah, you can afford to lose Noel Acciari, who's killed more penalties than anybody on this roster over the last 3 seasons for this team, and replace him with somebody that just doesn't. It's a difficult situation, but I like that line. I think that line's going to come back cheap if you want to re-sign all of them, but Blake Lizotte's the priority. I think we both agree on that. Let's go to the Penguins fan, like the Ohio State University. This is the Penguins fan on YouTube, who says, do you think that win over Carolina was due to great play from some forwards battling for a spot in the lineup after the trade, and with Hayes sitting out?
Ooh. I feel like, it's an interesting part of the season to be having the battling for a roster spot conversation. But it's very possible, considering the player they got. We know the Penguins are going to acquire him and give him a run immediately, just because that's usually what you do when you trade for a player. That's a fascinating one. I would say yes, just because again, these are young players trying to solidify themselves as NHLers, regardless of who is playing around them, regardless of moves that are happening around them. They're
Mhm.
trying to accelerate, especially against good teams, especially against the top teams in their division, in the NHL, in all of it. So I'm gonna leave the short answer as yes, because the Penguins are in a weird situation. Yeah, it's an odd part of the season to be having roster battles, but thinking about it,
Mhm.
um, these kids are fighting for their NHL lives. So if it's do or die for a couple of them in terms of staying in the NHL or probably losing leverage on a prospect ranking. So they're all stepping their game up. So I'm gonna go with a yes on that one.
I don't even think it's just the young kids. I
That's
think you
fair.
look at guys like Tommy Novak, who's playing really well as of late. You look at guys like Anthony Mantha, who's been really good all season long. I think everybody, and here's the thing: the Penguins, as an organization, have been one of the most honest organizations about their product on the ice in the entire NHL this season. What has Kyle Dubas said that is a lie? Nothing. And he talks a lot, right? He has his bi-weekly show with Josh Getzoff, the Penguins game plan, and he just overall, he talks a lot. He's very open about what he's trying to do. Dan Muse is the same. Since Dan Muse started back in training camp, back in September, he has said, I want competition day in and day out on the practice rink and in game action. I want people to know that they are battling, that there are very few spots that are written in pen in this lineup. And he's held true to that. You mentioned it earlier. Like he switches a lot of things. There's nobody staple gunned to each other. And I think that's the reason that after the Christmas break, after we saw them lose 9 of 10, that we've seen this pick up and play is because there was definitely a message sent. Whenever Igor Chinnikov was acquired and Ville Koivunen ended up sitting, that no matter how much we like you, because the Penguins love Ville Koivunen, they really want to figure out how to unlock his potential at the NHL level. While they love it, they're not going to just sit there and wait for it to blossom because they want to make the playoffs this year. So what do? They go out and they get Yegor Chinnikov. And what does he do? He plays pretty well in a game where he really didn't get an opportunity in game one. And in game two, he played really well and winds up with a goal. So I think that that is just an example of something that has been the case all season. It's just ramping up now as we get closer to that Olympic break and as we get closer to a trade deadline that is going to be very interesting
Yeah.
for a general manager that has been very honest in saying, we're still thinking about the future, but we also want to try to give these guys a chance to make the playoffs and do something special this April.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about taking Koivunen out of the lineup for that situation. It's very much true. The Penguins have every right to be excited about what Koivunen can bring and what they can unlock with him. It is just a matter of getting to that point and being patient, but also finally hitting the mark. Like I said, some guys it's do or die time for them. It might be for Koivunen. I know it's a little early on that, but something's got to unlock quickly, especially whenever Kyle Dubas is out here making moves for guys that can easily take his spot, like we've already seen. So, yeah, it's gonna build that competition. Like Dan Muse said, like you said, day in and day out, there's going to be roster battles. That's part of what made this season so questionable going in. Like, are we having roster battles deep into the season? Game 74, 75. We still don't have a roster set. At that point, you're fighting for next year, and yet here the Penguins are in a playoff spot for the time being, but also near the top of the East because again, it's all so tight. Yeah, it's quite a fascinating position to be in. I'm excited about those competitions. I'm excited to see who can rise to the top. And if I'm remembering correctly from the last few years, Chinnikov is a guy the Penguins have kind of been linked to for a while. So
He's been wanting a fresh start for a minute.
yeah, so he's getting it, and he's going to come in and immediately make a difference as he already had, and try and ride his own wave. He is also now fighting for a roster spot. It's not like he's like, yeah, he was going to come in and get the first-hand opportunity, but now it's his turn to now enter that fray, enter that fight of, okay, now I have to stay here.
Yeah. It's not just the names we've seen, right? Like if he struggles, They might give Koivunen another opportunity,
Yep.
or they might give Avery. Like, let's not forget,
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre is one of the best teams in the American Hockey League this year. You think a couple of those players aren't ready to say, hey, if somebody falters up there, that could be me taking their spot? 1,000%. It's organizational. What's the word I'm looking for? Just organizational competition.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Kyle Dubas has wanted since he stepped in, and he's finally starting to see the results of trying to foster that competition over a couple of seasons.
Sure.
Now we have the Penguins fan. Now we have Penguins fan 82. So,
big
I don't know, we're
guy.
2 to 81. I don't know. But yeah, big Martin Straka guy, Pens fan 0082 says, do the Penguins trade Justin Brazeau? He's been really good, and he's on a really cheap deal. I think the Penguins could get something really good if they decide to trade him. So, Horwat, what do you think? Is Big Braz on the chopping block?
I'll try and not be vague. No, I think he's playing too well for the Penguins now. Part of me was going to say yes, depending on the return. That's such a vague answer. You'd try to trade anyone depending on the return.
Yeah, if you offered me Connor McDavid, I'd have a hard time turning it down for Justin Brazeau.
Exactly. So I'm going to try and not be vague. I'm going to say no just because he's playing very well. He's on a cheap deal. You're going to take advantage of that cheap deal. Kick a trade for him into the offseason before it runs out. I forget how much time he's left on the deal, but
extra year.
So yeah, there you go. Kick it into the offseason if you need to. I think for now you let this season play out. He's playing just that well. If he was playing worse, maybe it'd be a different conversation, but he's playing well enough that you see it through to the year. He also seems like the type that can, if he falters a bit, hey, suddenly you have a new fourth line guy to really try out here along Blake Lizotte and whoever else you want to plug in next to him.
Yeah, I look at this question from the Strakistan, as it were, and I say, you're not off base. You're just a little off target. I think Anthony Mantha is the guy that you're looking at.
That would work.
Everybody's talking about Justin Brazeau, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy has already surpassed his career high in goals, and he's only played 26 games this year. But like you mentioned, with an extra year, how often do you find a guy producing the way that he is at $1.5 million on the salary cap? You just don't. You don't find that very often. Anthony Mantha is on a 1-year deal, $2.5 million, has already a bigger name, as it were, when it comes to the trade market, more of a past history of success in this league, and he has more points. I mean, he's played 14 more games, but he also has 28 points, 14 goals, 14 assists. He's played on your top power play, which has remained in the top 5. Right now, it's ranked 3rd. He's a guy that if you're going to trade somebody between those two, you're going to trade Anthony Mantha on an expiring deal. Now, is the return going to be as great? I'm not sure, because you're not buying, like, the other team's not buying another year. They're not buying a year. They're buying a pending unrestricted free agent who's probably going to get a pretty good pay bump if he continues this through the rest of the season. But I think if you're the Penguins, you just don't let go of players that are performing and performing with your best players, right? Justin Brazeau had 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points in 12 games with Evgeny Malkin before he went down with an injury. By he, I mean, Brazeau went down first, then Malkin went down before Braz could return.
Of course.
And I think that you look around and you have a couple of players that right now are stepping up and showing you that if you move on from one of these two, they can fill in the top 6.
Yep.
Everybody expects at some point Yegor Chinakhov will play with Evgeny Malkin. They just do, for the simple fact that Evgeny Malkin never gets to play with Russians, and Chinakhov seems to be a pretty dead ringer for a great Evgeny Malkin winger. But let's also not forget, Evgeny Malkin has a fascination with Tommy Novak, and I think we're all starting to see why. So you have a couple guys that could step up into that role, not to mention a guy like Ville Koivunen, who last year, when he played in the top 6, played pretty damn well, scored 7 points in 8 games. And you have a guy like Rutger McGroarty that can do that as well. But I think what this allows you to do, and this is the great thing about what Kyle Dubas did last offseason and bringing in both Brazeau and Mantha, it allows you to hold a high price for Rust and Raquel and still attain assets if you want to at the deadline this year. Not worry about, okay, well, we got to get something out of Brian Rust. We got to get something out of Rickard Raquel because we're still kind of in a retool and we need to continue to bolster. If the price isn't being met, then don't trade them. Instead, look to get value out of potentially trading Anthony Mantha or Justin Brazeau. But I think in all of this, it is a conversation to be had after the Olympic break. Because right now, why try to fix something that's not broken?
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And also, part of the discourse whenever the Penguins picked up Mantha was he'll be a great deadline piece.
Yeah, it's
right
the
away.
Beauvillier of everything.
Yeah, right away. That was one of the first conversations being had about Anthony Mantha. So I'm more on board with you again. Justin Brazeau, sure. Again, if the right price comes along, by all means. But for now, I think the answer is no. And like you're saying, turn your attention a little bit to the left in Anthony Mantha. That's sort of where that trade discussion can really happen. Is he playing well? Yes. On an expiring deal? Yes. Does that mean less return? The Penguins could get no return and be fine because of how much backstock they have at the AHL level.
And their draft picks. Holy crap.
Yeah. So if anyone rides that trade train, it's Anthony Mantha this year. Like I said, the second they signed him, that was one of the first discussions was, okay, what are they getting for him at the deadline? So it's a outstanding look by you to switch the top or to switch the focus just a little.
Just a hair. Same forward line. And honestly, if they don't trade Anthony Mantha, fine, he's been really good.
Yeah.
And how often do we sit there and say, we want more size on this Penguins team? Well, you have two redwoods on the second line right now. And if you want to hold on to them, who am I to say that that's a bad idea? Let's go to the 2 Twitter questions we got this week for the Ice-Burgh mailbag, starting with Evan Gray 17, his weekly edition of this segment says, do you think it's time to break up the kid line? They've got great underlying numbers, but seem to have trouble converting on chances. Now, this question came in before Chinnikov was the one that was placed on that line, but I mean, he's 24, so you can technically still call that the kid line. But when you look back to the sample size we've seen with McGroarty, Kindle, and Koivunen, do you think that's a line that I think we've seen enough of? And if Koivunen does return to action, would you prefer to see him elsewhere in the lineup?
I think Koivunen I would prefer to see elsewhere. I want to see how he does back in the top 6 to see if that sort of wakes him back up a little. Otherwise, I do like this kid line being in place. Whatever line works for you, if the Penguins are going for wins, that's what you go with. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Ride with your success, ride with your momentum. If Koivunen has to go back in and be given, not necessarily an experiment, but given a shot in a top 6 role again, then you should see if that sort of wakes up his skill and ability, because we all know, the Penguins know it. He's got it. It's just a matter of finding it and hatching it in Pittsburgh.
Now, here's the thing that I look at with the kid line. I think that there's a reason that you see them do everything but put the puck in the back of the net. There's a lot of small hesitations that in the AHL don't cost you. You end up scoring the goal anyway because it's the AHL. But the speed of the NHL, if you dust that puck off one time, if it's a hesitant shot instead of a one-timer, it's not going into the back of the net because you know what? But Connor Hellebuck's going to make that save. He's going to get to the other side of the crease and make that save. I think that's what we saw with the kid line is they were really good. They were dominating pace of play and puck possession at 5-on-5 in a lot of the games they were playing. It's just when it came to trigger, when it came to pulling the trigger, it just took a hair too long. And maybe there was an extra pass, but more often than not, it was the guy that was trying to pull the trigger. It just took a hair too long. And because of that, the goaltender got over. He made the save and he said, oh, what a great chance. They still can't find the back of the net. It's that one dust off. And I think it's all of them. I think it's Koivunen, especially that we've seen him get so many grade A chances. And yet he has what, 2 goals, 1 goal at this point. But it happens with McGroarty too. He has a great shot. It's just, you have to take advantage when the goaltender is even slightly out of position, because if you give him a millisecond, that's going to be enough for him to make up that ground. So I think that's what we're seeing. And again, that's something that comes with time. But with the Penguins right now, where they're sitting in the standings, that's why you put a guy like Chinnikov in, because he's played over 4 years at the NHL level at this point. He knows the speed. He knows the timing that it takes to score goals at this level. And that's why you see him get that opportunity with the kid line to hopefully give them a trigger man, because, I mean, his shot is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't remember if we had talked about this on the show at all, because it's the week between Christmas and New Year's is ridiculous and time doesn't exist. if we haven't talked about the Chinakhov trade, maybe it's a little bit of an overpay, but you're perfectly fine with that. If you're like, I'm perfectly fine with that because the Penguins still have the most picks in the first 3 rounds of the next 3 drafts than anybody in the NHL. And they just drafted 13 players this year.
Yeah.
Like at some point, you're going to run out of resources to develop all these players. If you have 13 players and the players are all excelling, I mean, you look at Quinn Beauchene, you look at a guy like Ryan Miller for the Portland Winterhawks right now. A lot of them are playing really well and taking steps forward in their draft plus 1 year. So when you have that, yeah, you feel a little bit better saying, okay, we can overpay a little bit to bring in this guy that, as you mentioned, we've been touting for a very long time.
Yeah, Penguins, when you want something, you go get it.
Yeah, that's why you get these picks in the first place.
Yeah, it is possible to have too many top-level prospects or too many prospects you think can make it, because at some point you will just start dumping them off. So losing a draft pick here and there down the line because you have so many already and you're hitting on a lot of options already, yeah, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? What's an extra high-level draft pick for a player that we think can help us now, that we've wanted for quite some time, and has already come in and made a difference? It's a worthwhile trade.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this year alone. Ben Kindle is probably 2 years ahead of where everybody expected him.
Yep.
Will Horkoff is probably far ahead of where people expected him to be. And Bill Zonin is a player that has only played a handful of games this year due to injuries. I think he's going to join that list. I think once you see him get a sample size in the QMJHL, you're going to say, oh, wow. Like, it's not Kindle, Horkov, and then Zonin. It is the big 3 of the 2025 draft. Not to be confused with the big 3 in the Penguins. Let's not put those expectations on them, but they're going to be leading what seems to be a very strong draft class for Kyle Dubas. And why can't I think of his name right now? The other Penguins front office member right now. Wes Clark.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought it completely left my brain for a second, but shout out to them because it is looking like it's a steal of a draft class, not just draft pick when it comes to 2025. The last question we have before we'll talk a little bit about Olympics. I know we're going a little long here, but hey, it's the first episode of 2026. We gotta do it big. Nicholas Dowsett on Twitter says, what would your top 5 young players, i.e. under 24 or 25 around the league, or even maybe a free agent, that Dubas would or should make an actual attempt to trade or sign that could change the Penguins' trajectory this season? Let me start with that. There is no 24 or 25-year-old that they are going to acquire that's going to change their trajectory this season.
Right.
But they can add pieces that can help steer the ship, because the trajectory is based on their goaltenders and their stars. And that's how it's just going to be this year. Yes, a Ben Kindle is going to help. Yes, maybe one of these 5 players that I have down could help. It's not going to change the trajectory of the season. I don't think there's anybody out there that is for sale that the Penguins could acquire that will change that. Obviously, if you go out and you get Macklin Celebrini, that changes your trajectory. But it's the same thing as we talked about earlier. You know, within the realm of possibility, there's not many players that fit that description. So I'll give you my top 5, and you let me know if there's a name that you've kind of thought about in the interim that is not on this list. Number 5, I have Arthur Kaliev. He's among the AHL leaders in scoring. He had that little weird off-ice dust-up earlier in the offseason, but nothing's come of it. He's continued to play, and he's continued to play at a high level. 24 years old. He's a winger that you can add to your surplus that you have right now of 24, 25-year-old wingers that deserve another opportunity after showing that they can do it at the NHL level, just haven't been able to do it consistently. Number 4, out of Winnipeg, a guy we talked about earlier in the season, and it's kind of gone quiet, Brad Lambert. Why? Because there could still be a gaping hole at the center ice position after the season. We don't know the future of Evgeny Malkin. And yes, Ben Kindle looks like he is very primed and ready. Tommy Novak has stepped in very well so far at second line center. But the more centers you get under the age of 25 that have high pedigree, the better. I like Tristan Brose too, but if you can add Brad Lambert to that list, that gives you another dart to throw at the board and hope you hit a bullseye, because when you lose a second line center, one of the caliber of Evgeny Malkin, even at the age of 39, it's going to take something crazy to replace him in the short term. So I think Brad Lambert's on that list. Number 3 and 2 are kind of interchangeable here. Owen Power, 23 years old, left-handed defenseman, and Bowen Byram, 24 years old, left-handed defenseman. As of right now, the Buffalo Sabres are in a really good spot. They did lose on Saturday, but that was after winning 10 straight games and putting themselves right back into the thick of it in the Eastern Conference. This is a team that hasn't made the playoffs since 2011. And this is also a team that everybody always talks about. Man, Brian Rust would do wonders for that team. And I'm sure Jason Zucker would be somebody who is championing that opportunity. Rickard Rakell would probably be somebody that team is looking for. They have these young defensemen, all left shot, because you include Rasmus Dahlin, and you say maybe, just maybe, there's a move to be made, there's a deal to be made where the Penguins can add a young defender for their future while giving up something that they have a surplus of. Maybe that's the Anthony Mantha move. You'd probably have to attach a pretty high draft pick to it, but maybe that is the Anthony Mantha move. Maybe that is the Justin Brazeau move. Who knows? But I think when you look at the Buffalo Sabres, it's an interesting situation because they're always a team that does interesting things. I mean, they were the ones that were doing 3 goaltender rotations when they were last in the NHL a couple of years ago. But as of right now, both Rasmus Dahlin and I believe Owen Power are playing on the right side as left shot defensemen. So I don't know what they're doing with that, but those are 2 names I'd look at. And the last one, again, defense heavy list, but Pavel Mintyukov, there's still yet to be a resolution with that. He's playing a little bit better, and he's only 22 years old. And if you're the Penguins, the more young defenders you could bring in, the better.
Yeah, I like your Buffalo defenseman options. I didn't come up with anyone else because I do like what you said there. I like all those names you said. My first immediate thought was, when was this question asked? Because I would have said Chinakhov.
Chinakhov would have been on that list. This was asked last on New Year's Eve, so after the Chinakhov acquisition.
Okay, because had it been before, that would have been my go-to answer because it was someone the Penguins had been connected to before, and much in the way that the Oilers have been connected to Jari for so long, it just finally happened. Could kind of be looked at the same way here. It just finally happened for the Blue Jackets and the Penguins in getting Chinakhov here. Outside of that, though, I like your Buffalo defenseman options because there are plenty of forwards in this Penguin system. There are plenty. You don't necessarily need to add more to it. You need to hit on another defenseman or 2, though. Sure, Owen Pickering hasn't been given a chance yet this year, but might be worth it in the long run. And sure, Harrison Brunick, we're all hoping to see blossom in the near future. But if you need more immediate help right away, I mean, I would say one of Power or Byram might change trajectories even. They're that good, but I like those choices you just need to add defensemen to this team, especially to this young roster. So I would say those 2 would be my top as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at those 2 as well because they're both, I believe, on expiring deals. And Buffalo's is paid a lot of money for a lot of guys. So, I don't know. I think Bowen Byram is the guy that would be a little bit less expensive because they didn't go in there and draft him 1.1 like they did with Owen Power. And that's also the guy that's kind of already worked his way out of Colorado, needed a fresh start from there. And maybe you give him an opportunity on a team that has some of those level of players, those caliber of players, those McKinnon, Crosby level of players, and maybe it sparks something and you end up with a left shot defenseman under the age of 25 that you can just put in pen for the next several seasons. But let's move over and talk about the Olympics because that was a very fun, great questions, mailbag edition of the Tip of the Ice-Burgh. But we do finally have rosters for the 2026 Winter Olympics. They'll take place from February 11th to the 22nd. At least the men's ice hockey tournament will take place on those dates in Milan, Italy. That'll be the first time that NHLers participate in the Olympics since 2014. 12 years, a dozen years since we last saw NHLers take the ice with the Olympic rings as the backdrop. 4 Penguins will be heading over to Italy. Sidney Crosby, we already knew that, was predetermined for Team Canada late or early last summer. Same with Artur Shilovs. We knew that he was going to be going for Team Latvia. So shout out to Artie Shilovs. But we found out earlier this week that Erik Karlsson and Rickard Rakell will both be participating for Team Sweden. So for Penguins, Crosby looking for a three-peat. Karlsson and Rakell looking to get back on the horse after not making it to the championship of the Four Nations. They were both involved in that tournament. Let's look at Team USA, Horwat, because that is the big topic of conversation. Obviously, they removed a couple players from the Four Nations. Adam Fox did not make the Olympic roster. Chris Kreider did not make the Olympic roster. They added a handful here: Clayton Keller, Tage Thompson, Seth Jones. But still, the main topic of conversation is who got snubbed from Team USA's roster. And the big name I think everybody's talking about is Jason Robertson.
That's one of the big names everyone is talking about. They're talking about Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
Adam Fox is another huge one. You replace him with Seth Jones? That's just the insanity. I did see one tweet, though, that said, no, we're not holding a grudge against Adam Fox for one play in a Four Nations. Come on, man. I don't know about that one. You're replacing with Seth Jones.
Well, I mean, his head coach is also the head coach of Team USA.
So,
it might be a little icy whenever Mike Sullivan comes back from Italy.
A little. Oh, boy.
Especially if they don't win gold.
At this point, they might not. I mean,
well,
we're having the discussions already. I mean, they're bringing a fourth line for some reason.
Yeah, like a true fourth line. I think that's what everybody's upset about. I mean, you look at the mock lineup, your fourth line is Clayton Keller, Tage Thompson, and JT Miller, which, okay, but you also have Vinny Trocheck and Brock Nelson as your extra forwards as of right now. I mean, hopefully, if not, if you're sitting Clayton Keller and Tage Thompson for both of those two, I think a lot of people are going to be very upset.
Who does Brock Nelson have dirt on? Like, how did he make Four Nations? Like, don't get me wrong, Brock Nelson's a great player and was a great trade piece for the Colorado Avalanche, but that's in an NHL setting. On the international stage, I would like to know what Brock Nelson is getting to really, or what he's doing that really puts him above these other players, like a Cole Caulfield even, or a who's the other one I'm missing? I know Lane Hudson is a defenseman, but that's another name that didn't make it.
If you want to take people that are defensively responsible but can still score, does Brian Rust sound like somebody who would fit that bill? I understand that he's not being talked about as a snub, but if you wanted to have a guy that can kill penalties for some reason, that can play defense. I mean, he hasn't played great defense this year, so maybe that's why. But can also score. Brian Rust seems like a pretty good fit. Again, when you consider the head coach as well.
Yes, Brian Rust was a long shot, but hey, if you're looking for role players, boy, he's one of them. He's one that fits that easily. And I would say better than JT Miller. We see JT Miller's efforts just fall off a cliff all the time. He's been in New York for half of a season, and there's already clips of him not giving an effort in New York. Fascinating stuff. That things never change. I mean, listen, we all want to see Team USA do well. I just don't think they're going to with this lineup. You're leaving Jason Robertson off. You're leaving Cole Caulfield off, and yet you're implementing a Seth Jones, a JT Miller, a Trocheck, a Brock Nelson, guys that just, I'm not going to say aren't going to get it done, but I just don't quite see it.
They were one goal away from winning Four Nations. But here's the thing.
Completely different tournament.
Four Nations. It's a completely different sport almost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do I think they're going to stink? No, they're not going to stink. I mean, look at the top of that lineup. Now, I don't know what Matthew Tkachuk has right now because he hasn't played hockey since last June. But, I mean, I'd imagine he's going to be fine. But at the same time, like, no, Jason Roberts scored over 50 goals in the calendar year of 2025. You're going up against Team Canada. That team is just going to score at will. Like, that is what that team's identity is, is they score at will. Look at their goaltending. They need to score at will to do anything. And they did just enough to win the gold or the championship or whatever we're calling it.
They got a gold medal.
Yeah, they got a gold medal, but they also lifted a trophy. So I'm like, I don't know technically what you would consider it, but they won gold in the Four Nations. I look at this and I'm like, again, one makes sense. Like JT Miller, okay, that's your captain, Mike Sullivan with the Rangers. That makes sense. You want to bring him over. You want a character guy, I guess. I mean, that didn't work out well in Vancouver, but Brock Nelson's the one that I always look at, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I understand the Avalanche have not lost a lot of hockey games, so whatever they're doing with him is working. I think that, and again, this is just a personal opinion. Whenever they had that video of Bill Guerin calling Brock Nelson, what do we always say about hockey? It's an old boys club. What is Brock Nelson now? A third generation U.S. Olympian in hockey.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh no.
Might play a role. That's all I'm going to say about that. But let's move away from Team USA before we give some predictions here. We don't have to give predictions now. We still have a month until Milan starts, and we'll have a very long gap to fill with a 3-week break. Yeah. But is Canada just going to run away with this? I mean, I look at their roster. They added Macklin Celebrini, who at World Championships last year was really good with Sidney Crosby. Honestly, as much as we're always like, oh yeah, Crosby and McDavid together, Crosby and Marner together, Crosby and McKinnon together. Give me Sidney Crosby and Macklin Celebrini. I just want to see that. Yeah. Sid and the kid. It's a tale as old as time, right? And then Nick Suzuki, you want to talk about two-way forwards. One of the best two-way centers in the game. But I just look at that lineup, and I'm just like, yeah, if the goaltending can withstand, and Binnington did, in Four Nations, and they're also bringing Logan Thompson this time, which was a mistake they'd made in Four Nations. I find it hard for anybody to be able to take this team down.
So do I. I mean, that's usually how it goes with hockey on the international stage. It is, you have to get through Canada if you want to go anywhere. And again, it is going to be up to the goaltending to sort of remain what it was at Four Nations. That, I mean, I don't know how the starting role will play out. Logan Thompson isn't having the same season he had last year. So that might play a bit of a role, but at the same time, it's going to be score at will, score at will, score at will. And the defense should stand up pretty well. It's not like they've got softies on the blue line either.
Yeah.
So it's going to be them against the world, as it always is. And I'm not going to say they're going to run away with it, because it's not a totally young group that they've got back there. It's going to be a battle. But I'd still say, they're going to be the favorites. I would still say they are the favorites. And it might even come down to depth scoring of all things that changes the trajectory of both Team USA and Team Canada. I'm not saying that's going to be the final, but I'm saying if we're comparing those two teams, that could be what separates Canada on the international stage from the United States. And also, back to the United States for a second, can Connor Hellebuck do it? Finally? Every big game, every postseason. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, you can't take Four Nations into account totally. It was 3 games, basically. And, sure, he got them to overtime. Missed the one big save. And sure, you got the Jets out of the first round, but boy, by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah.
So, can he do it? That's another question. I also forget the rest of the USA's goalies. On paper, they all stack up better than Canada.
Jake Ottinger and Jeremy Swayman are the other two.
Ugh, Swayman. I forgot about Swayman.
You don't like the Alaskan boy?
He had a horrible year last year, and I haven't seen how he's done this year.
Yeah. If he even plays, that's like the Marc-Andre Fleury effect, because Marc-Andre Fleury was an Olympian, but was he really gonna play over Roberto Luongo in 2010? I think it was Luongo and the bones of Martin Brodeur.
Brodeur started that tournament too. They put Luongo in like halfway through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, who knows if Swayman gets in or not, but still, it's if Hellebuck falls off and you need to make that quick change, suddenly Swayman becomes a viable option. And also, we still, like you said, we still have a month plus until we get there. Things can happen. Fascinating. I would say on paper, though, U.S. goalies do stick up more than Canada's. But again, man, you got to have a team in front of you, too.
Yeah, and the thing that I don't think enough people talk about with Team USA is their defense. I mean, Jacob Slave and Brock Faber as a duo might be the best defensive pairing that we've seen this century. I mean, outside of just Nick Lidstrom and whoever played with him in the early 2000s. I mean, those two together are tremendous. Like I wouldn't be surprised if at some point either whoever the why can't I think of the Hurricanes? It's Eric Tulsky or Bill Guerin are just like, what do you want? Like, I just want to see these two together at the NHL level. But those two together are great. Speaking of Minnesota defensemen, Quinn Hughes didn't play last year, and he's going to play with Charlie McAvoy, who's healthy. Remember how big of a difference that made when Charlie McAvoy went down, how big he was for that game where the U.S. beat Canada in the preliminaries of Four Nations. So the fact that they have those guys, you add in, Jake Sanderson, who's been really good this year for Ottawa, Zach Werenski, Noah Hannafin, their defense is really good. And again, if Connor Hellebuck can just shake off the yips, it's going to be hard to score on Team USA. And they do have fourth liners. So if anything, they should be able to do that. But the one team I will mention before we go, outside of USA, Canada, because that always dominates the conversation, I'm going to start reading a list. You tell me the country as soon as you recognize what country it is after I'm reading this roster.
All
Jesper Bratt, Leo Carlson, Joel Eriksson Ek, Philip Forsberg.
Yeah, Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Wait, Switzerland? Where's Forsberg from?
Philip Forsberg, who we just saw play in his hometown.
I'm thinking of Roman Josi.
Roman Josi is also I thought Roman Josi is also Swedish, which is where I'm going with this.
What? Who am I thinking of, man?
You're thinking of Nico Hischier.
Well, yeah. But Roman Josi.
Roman Josi nationality. He
Switzerland.
is Swiss. Okay, so you're right.
Switzerland. Okay, yeah. I was thinking of Roman Josi.
Why did I think Roman Josi was Swedish? I don't know. Because I forget Switzerland as a hocky country a lot of the times. Sorry.
They're in there. And hey,
they're in there.
Nico Hischier, Roman Josi. I named two players. I know there's another one who I'm forgetting.
Yes.
That'll be a fun team.
Yes. You're right. Roman Josi, Swiss.
Anyway, Sweden, yes.
But Team Sweden looks really good. I mean,
always too.
You add Gabe Landeskog to that team. I mean, you look at a lot of the players they have here. Some of the young players like Leo Carlson on this stage, I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. Because a lot of people forget how talented a lot of those players for Anaheim are. They're really good. They are really good. Leo Carlson's leading the way for them. I want to see what he's able to do. This is Carlson at his best. You got Victor Hedman, who's healthy. I mean, again, same thing with Canada. If their goaltending can hold up, I could see Sweden being a team that quickly people are looking at and saying, oh, they're right up there. Like they are, as far as NHL firepower, they're right up there. And honestly, Team Finland's not too shabby either. Remember last year at Four Nations, everybody's like, well, Finland's always going to stick around, but they got a lot of injuries, so they're healthy. So that matched with their playing style, maybe Finland can be an upset special at the Olympics this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this is the thing. We haven't seen this for 12 years. Like, I understand we got a little sample size, a little taste of it with Four Nations, and that was great.
Yeah.
This is going to be better. I mean, as long as the ice holds up, it's going to be better.
Yeah, it should be. We always hear, going into every Olympics, summer and winter, there's always some sort of thing that's falling short, not meeting expectations, and then a week or a day before the Olympic ceremonies start, everything's all good, nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about this whole ice rink situation. It'll get figured out because it does every 2 years. I say two because it's the same thing in summer.
Yeah. If it gets too close to the deadline, just hire whoever hires the people to put up sheets, and they'll have it ready in 2 weeks.
Yeah. You're like a hop, skip, and a jump away from Switzerland, where there are plenty of rinks. If you really need to figure it out, although the Olympics are testy about that. They don't want to go anywhere else. So,
well, I mean,
whatever.
They had time. So if it's bad, there's nobody to blame but the IOC. So
as always, but again, they figure it out every time.
Yeah. So it should be fun. And again, for Penguins heading over to Milano Cortino, because my voice goes away as we hit an hour. But Sidney Crosby, Artur Shilovs, Eric Carlson, and Ricard Raquel should be a lot of fun. And hopefully between now and then, the Penguins continue to play the way they have over the past couple of weeks. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoy this content, make sure that you like, share, subscribe. It goes a long way in just showing us that you are appreciative, because we also appreciate you listening. But that's going to do it for this one. We'll see you guys next time.